Hi, I'm Patrick Smith, and today you're listening to episode 11 of the Mountains of Leadership podcast. Mark, how are you doing?
I am doing much better. Thanks.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Feeling good?
Later.
Yeah. Today we are going to talk about the top 10 things all men should know. And we'll do one for the women as well. Probably we'll bring Ruth on at some point to do that
probably.
one.
You're a man, right?
I am totally a man.
I'm a man.
I
think we can speak to this one.
All right, so let's get right into it, guys. Today is going to be a shorter podcast. We are headed out on vacation, so we've got things to do. So, yeah.
Look out, Florida.
Headed down to Florida to go sit on the sand and watch the waves. It's going to be great.
I want to see your kids dig a hole big enough to bury you.
That's a big hole. They're going to need practice.
Right?
So, real quick, so we'll just kick it off. Top 10 things all men should know. We're going to lead in with number one. That's personal development. And under personal development, that is, personal development is self-awareness is what that could be described as. So you want to develop as a man. You need to have some self-awareness about, number one, where you are. Number two, where you want to go. And number three, what it's going to take to get there.
We're talking about in general in life, right?
Yeah. And
not on a map.
Not right. Right. But the thing is to have self-awareness to say, okay, here are my intellectual shortcomings. Here could be some blind spots. Maybe they're blind spots. I don't know if they are, but trying to have that self-awareness. You're going to bring your tribe in, episode 2, podcast 2. Look that up, but have your tribe come talk to you.
Feedback, right?
You get the feedback. Where are you at from a personal development standpoint? Having that self-awareness to know, like, what goals do you need to have physically? What do you need to improve on? Things like that. And so that's self-awareness. The emotional intelligence piece of it is, how do you interact with other people and being aware of that, and what needs to develop there. So you should know how to ascertain those things. You should know how to sit down and ask yourself about that personal development, like in those arenas. And then the third thing is communication skills. Where are you lacking in communication skills? I will tell you this much. Personal development for me, what that looked like when we started this podcast is I said a whole lot. And I had to work on that. So in your communication skills, those things should improve. And what does that look like practically speaking?
And I talked like Mark? A redneck with bubble gum in my mouth, right?
You sound like a redneck with bubble gum in your mouth.
I'm still trying to get over that. Like, I had no idea how thick my accent was from, being a Wyoming boy. And I had no idea. Listening to yourself is so difficult.
Yeah.
And being self-aware. And, some of these things, like, guys, you got to be able to take some, if you're going to bring your tribe around, if you're a jerk, and they tell you you're a jerk, you probably ought to listen.
Yeah.
Like if somebody tells you that, you're not the nicest guy to be around, you're kind of like off-putting and stuff like that. Wow. All right. Ask deeper questions. Don't get defensive with those questions. Also
ask the question. Look at who's it coming from.
Right. Consider the source.
Yeah. I mean, you get some people that they don't do well with conflict because they don't have a backbone, and when they meet somebody who is good at communication and just kind of lays it down, and that person's not wrong necessarily. They may come across like a jerk to that individual, but I'm just playing devil's advocate for a minute.
Right. No. Well, and then the biggest, on this communication skills, right? Active listening. Mm-hmm. I always heard this analogy. God gave you one mouth and two ears, so you can listen twice as much as you talk. And that's a good rule of thumb.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's our number one, personal development. So for your personal development, having self-awareness, having emotional intelligence, and working on your communication skills as a man, that will help you. That's something you should know how to do. That's something that you should have plans for, and there's no excuse. Right. And if you have an excuse, you can still work on that. You can improve incrementally.
Yep.
Okay. So number 2, top 10 things all men should know. Number 2, how to fight or do war.
That's kind of funny because funny curious, not funny haha. You shared a video last night that was these two guys just absolutely these two dudes, big old, that were girl fighting. Like seriously, women would whoop their butts. And it was humiliating as a man for me to actually watch. But in John Eldridge's book, Wild at Heart, the question that haunts every man is, do I have what it takes? If you don't question that anymore, you have a lot of confidence.
Well, I often find that the people that have some substance around being able to handle themselves physically, they never stop asking that question because the rent's due every freaking day, man.
It is.
And I mean, you don't know when you're going to need that. And I want to talk about our culture for a minute. So how to fight and do war. This is number 2. There is a huge push right now about toxic masculinity, and to be a man and be physically capable somehow, just having that air about you as a man, somehow there's an error there. There's something wrong with you for that. There's nothing wrong with you, men. There's nothing wrong with you. You go out there and be a man. You are called to something more, and women are called to something more too. And women can fight. I had a trainer. She's on Ronda Rousey's team. She trained me on the judo side with my Brazilian jiu-jitsu stuff over at the gym I was at. And she's bad. I mean, she's bad. But for the men, you need to know how to fight, because there could come a day when you got to protect your kids or your wife. Or what happens if you get attacked in front of your wife or your girlfriend or whatever? You don't want to get beat up in front of your girlfriend or your wife.
Or how would you like to try and face yourself in the mirror if somebody got to your kids and you could do nothing about it?
Someone gets your kids, you can't do anything about it, and it was because of your lack of physical capability. I mean, there's exceptions to that, guys. I know some really tough, strong dudes that they've got physical impairments. That's a whole nother conversation. But what I'm advocating for is for you that don't have that, if something happened to your kids and you couldn't do anything about it because you didn't plan or train for that day, hence
the fight or do war part, right? The dude, I met the gentleman in the wheelchair at your shrimp and crab boil, right? That dude is jacked. I would hate to mess with him even in a wheelchair. He's
not somebody you want to mess with.
And I will guarantee you that somewhere hidden on that wheelchair is a sidearm that he knows how to use well.
I'm not going to speak on that, but
that's what I'm saying. Fight or do war.
Yeah.
You need to be able to eliminate an aggressive target.
You do. And when I was, I'll tell you a quick story. When I was a bouncer years ago, I had a guy that we were getting ready to have to deal with, and he popped off, and he's like, well, you think you're tough. You have all this time to train, do all of this, and you wouldn't be so bad if you weren't training all the time, blah, blah, blah. And, he started this fight with us, and we kept trying to tell him to leave. But then he started making excuses for why he's getting ready to lose the fight. But he's the one that squared off with me in the parking lot. And I looked at him and I said, you had your whole life to train for this moment. It's not my fault if you lose.
Yep.
I told him that straight up. And then I got to work.
Yeah.
And he lost. But anyway, moving on. So know how to
we go from that to relationships and communication.
Guys, number 2.
Let's get soft and fluffy.
Know how to fight and do war. Number 1, personal development. We're moving on to number 3, relationships and communication. So be a dangerous guy and know how to handle yourself, but also know when to be gentle and have the strength to know when to rein that in and step back and be a good communicator.
This is where being a good man comes in, right?
Respect boundaries and have yourself reined in, because you might be something physical to contend with, but if you're a bully, if you're a jerk, you're still weak. And you know what? Somebody better than you is going to come along at some point and knock you off that high horse. And you're going to get embarrassed in front of a lot of people. So you need to know how to treat people. You need to know how to do your relationships and your communication. And you need to understand respect and boundaries. And men, if you are strong, if you're pursuing strength and learning how to do a fight or to do war, you need to be able to understand consent and personal space with your lady. You need to be able to be mindful of their limits and their comfort levels. So if you're dating, you're a gentleman. That attribute has been far lost in our society. I'm not advocating for this big, brawny, arrogant, jacked dude that knows how to fight and he just bullies people, pushes people around, and has no respect for women. respect women, guys. Respect your ladies. Take care of them. There's valor and honor in that. And, being able to, also kind of moving off of that, going down to conflict resolution.
Oh, we're both experts at this.
I'm going to tell you something. Relationships and communication, number 3. Under that, we have conflict resolution, knowing how to resolve conflict. One of my biggest issues, and just in general, is sometimes we should lean into a conflict, not sweep it under the rug. Sometimes you don't have that conflict and you know when the right time is to have that, obviously. But when the conflict comes, don't shy away from that. You need to lean into that and have the hard conversations with people and know how to do that. And do it in a way where it's productive.
In a peaceful manner.
In a peaceful manner. You may know how to fight, but if your answer to everything is to clock someone in the jaw,
then you're a bully.
You're a bully. But also understanding, guys, that conflict resolution isn't shying away from the conflict either. Being able to have a stern conversation and be real with somebody, there's value in that. Mm-hmm. So, under number 3, relationships and communication, learn how to communicate and learn when and where and how those things should occur. I lean more toward the side of I'm gonna confront you directly, and we're gonna have a very hard, heavy conversation. But I'm also inviting that pushback on myself as well, because I want to have the self-awareness. And so let's grow in dialogue. You get closer as a person with another person if you can do that effectively and do it in a healthy manner.
But it also takes time to earn that respect, right? Like the conversation you and I were having the other day. We were talking about the podcast in particular, right? And how we're going to handle some things. And I was like, that I appreciate that, but I think we ought to probably shoot from the hip on some of this stuff and do this. And you're like, oh, okay.
You have that relationship where you have that push-pull.
Right.
It's like there's that trust there. If you've earned that, those heavier conversations should be
easier.
They should be able to be had, right? Mm-hmm. That's maturity. Understanding that, right? And I just advocate for that. My wife she's got a gifting for peacemaking. She's so gentle and calm. And
she has to be being married to you.
People are gonna think I'm a jerk when they listen to this. I'm kind of just
guys,
a solid dude.
He sits around with his family at night listening to Frank Sinatra right there on that record player. And I'm not joking. Like I'll walk in here, he's like dancing around with his kids and stuff. He's like the big freaking dancing bear in his living room. And I'm like, what on earth who is this?
But that can also be very intense, right?
Right. Yeah. But I'm just laughing at him dancing with his little daughter. And she's like sneaking under the table and tickling his knees and stuff like that. And he's all goofing around with her, listening to Frank Sinatra. I'm like, who listens to Frank Sinatra?
This guy.
I mean, yeah. So anyway, guys, don't take me wrong, but yeah, his wife is full of grace.
Yeah, she puts up with me. She asked to be Ruth. I love you. Anyway, all right. So that's number 3. I think we've pretty much nailed that down. Yeah. So under number 3, respect people's boundaries, know how to do conflict resolution, and then also build and maintain healthy relationships. Trust and loyalty goes a long way. So open communication and support. That's that trust you're alluding to.
And you also need to recognize when a relationship's not healthy.
Step away from it.
To step away from it when it's draining you. You need to be able to draw that boundary for yourself, for your own well-being. I've had to do that recently with a couple of people that I've called friends for 2 to 3 years.
It's heartbreaking, man. Mm-hmm. I've went through a recent season on that too. It's awful to have to do sometimes, but sometimes it's necessary. Mm-hmm. Somebody shows you that you can't trust them, there's no going back from that sometimes. And
you catch him in a lie. Just catch him in a lie. And it just destroys it.
Yeah, well, and that's...
Yep.
Yeah, Yeah,
we'll leave that one there.
Yeah.
So, all right, health and well-being.
Number 4.
Physical health. All right, so I'm working on this one right now with the 75 Hard, right? We discussed that last podcast, but, and I showed you like the picture from day 1 to day 4, start day to day 4. Right, it's amazing.
You want me to put that up on the screen?
No, right. Nobody needs to see me in my skivvies. And but I was shocked at like the transformation in just what doing things the right way, and how much I neglected doing things the right way, just took effect in a few days. and you can see physical photographic evidence, and it's like, wow, that's cool. I can't wait to see what the end of 30 days looks like.
Well, so number 4, like he's saying, is men, you should know how to manage your health and your well-being. So Mark, you're going through the 75 hard challenge right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's going pretty well, but it's also putting you through the ringer.
Oh man.
But knowing how to do those things, knowing how to lift weights. If you don't know how, go teach yourself how to lift weights. Go get a trainer. Learn how to work out. Learn how to exercise. And the other thing is mental health. Know how to manage your mind. Know how to manage your thoughts. Know how to be. There's a time to be stoic. And other times there's a time to let your hair down. And Mark can't really let his hair down. We all know that. But
I can wear a wig.
There we go. But no one will let your hair down and have a little fun too. That's important for your mental health. And
but also, guys, I want you to know, as men, like, I have been through years of therapy. I've put myself through years and years.
Well, Mark,
and years of therapy.
Everything you've had to go through, man. That's the average guy doesn't have the meat grinder that is your life that you've been through, right?
So, but I've had to go. But I've had to be like, okay, I need help. And guys, there's nothing wrong with asking for help at all, ever. I told I was literally going to this biblical counselor, and I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, I've been seeing her for about a month. I said, you don't get it. Like, I have this pendulum that swings, and it swings over here, and I want to be an awesome man of God. And it swings over here, and I want to say F it and let all my demons out to play. And she goes, you know what? Let's just aim for the middle. I was like, okay, cool. I can do that. Just aim for the middle.
That's the stoicism, just
right.
No matter what's going on, being able to stand in the storm unmoved.
Yep.
And
so,
the mental health piece of that is, guys, knowing how to manage that is important. And having a good community of people around you helps with that mental health too, right? So knowing how to build the right people around you, knowing who those people are, that's a skill. That's a skill you need to have, and you need to vet people.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
So we've moved from physical health to mental health. The last one under knowing how to manage your health and well-being for number 4 is your financial literacy. You need to know financial literacy. If you don't know financial literacy, go look at our podcast episode number 4, things you should know before investing. That'll get you a good baseline of some good information. But there's a lot of information out there. You can go read. You can go get books. You can learn about financial literacy, how to invest, how to make wise, prudent investments for your life.
Yep.
That's all I had for number 4, Mark. Are we good there?
So, yeah, I think we are. Let's just move on. Like we said, this is going to be kind of a short one today. So, responsibility and independence. Oh, who likes to take accountability for their actions? Ugh.
Well, I mean, it's
a man thing to do. We have to.
Mommy and daddy take care of you when you're a kid. When you get to a certain age, you take care of yourself. And you need to get out there and go make something of yourself and go get a piece of the world. You need to go take care of yourself. Pay your own bills. Get your own place. Work your own job. Take care of yourself.
Let your yes be yes and your no be no.
How do you tie that in?
What's that?
How do you tie that in?
Taking accountability, taking responsibility for your actions.
Yeah.
If you say something, if you say this is who you are, show it in your actions.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the accountability piece. I'm accountable. I'm going to pay my bills. I'm accountable to pay my bills. I'm accountable to be on my own and make my way in this world. Mm-hmm. I'm accountable for my actions. I'm accountable for what I say. So you're like saying, if I say yes, that means yes. If I say no, that means that you're accountable for those answers. Mm-hmm. Learning to say no in life is a life skill just in general. That's huge. But being accountable to those answers once you've made them or said them, right?
Right, and we've learned from our failures and mistakes on that one too, right?
Well, you can say yes to everything, and then you're everywhere and nowhere at the same time, and you're ineffective.
Yeah. I mean, you're completely inept.
Yeah, and as a man, that's not wise. So you need to have the skills to be responsible. Be responsible. So responsibility and independence, number 5. So moving on to number 6, career and professionalism. Knowing how to take control of your career and knowing how to be a professional. When you get up in the morning, you're like, I'm a pro. I go to work. This is what I do. And knowing how to be a professional and conducting yourself in that manner, there's a lot of nonverbal there. You know, wearing a suit to work. Maybe that's not always needed, depending upon where you work. But read the room and be a professional. Be a professional. Show up and be a professional and know how to handle that. And also knowing how to direct your own career, being your own advocate, being your own personal advocate in your career. Guys, if you're in corporate America, no one is your best advocate but yourself. You need to sell yourself. Management needs to see who you are. Don't be a butt kisser. I'm not advocating for that. What I am advocating for is
show them what you're worth.
Show them what you're worth, and do that with your work. Do it with work and action, and then when you have the conversations, highlight those things. Let your boss know what you're doing.
Right.
Take control of your career and be a professional and know how to do that. So that's number 6.
Keep a journal, a summary.
I used to do that when I was in corporate America. I would keep notes on everything I did that year weekly, and so by the end of the year, I had a massive list of things that I'd executed on.
Yep.
Right.
And it served you well.
It did. Absolutely. Right. Okay. So moving on, number 7 is knowing how to be well-read. So how do you do this? What you need to do is you need to sit down. You know, everyone does their New Year's resolution. You can do this right now. What are we in right now? August of 2023. You can do this anytime. I don't care what time of year. Sit down and say, I have knowledge goals. And in 6 months, I want to be a subject matter expert in this. Or, you know, I want to be well-read or well-versed in that. So you could write down, if you went in and you said, I'm going to take all the 4 to 4.5 star best-selling books on finance on Amazon Prime right now. You got the Audible app on your phone, and you listen to every single one of them in the next 6 months. You're going to be infinitely better in finance, in managing your own finances and doing investments and things like that than you were 6 months prior. So knowing how to set those knowledge goals so that you're well read.
Well, and that's the other part of the 75 hard, right? I have to read 10 pages a day out of a physical book.
Give people a rundown of what 75 hard is. Give me all the activities within that you're having to do.
All right. So 75 hard is it's 2 45-minute workouts a day. One has to be outdoors. It's drink a gallon of water a day. It's no alcohol and no cheat meals. You stick to a diet, which I'm sticking to, like no sugar, low carbs, like basically a keto diet is what I'm sticking to.
But you pick the diet, right?
You pick the diet. You can do an 80-20 diet. You can do like intermittent fasting. There's so many different diets you can stick to, but you got to stick to it. Mm-hmm. Whatever you commit to, you got to stick to it, right? And then it's reading 10 pages a day. I'm reading a book called The Slight Edge right now, and it's dealing with the philosophy of your core being what comes out. My kids actually got this for me for Christmas. I hadn't cracked it yet. Here it is, August, and I'm finally cracking it.
So there's your knowledge goals, being well read right there.
And I have, because most everything is audiobook. I have Audible. I have my subscription. I have a bunch of books on there I've listened to, but I haven't physically read a book in so long and highlighted and gone through things. And it makes a difference.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. So guys, number 7, knowing how to be well read. You need to have learning and knowledge goals. What are you learning? What are you learning about societal issues? What are you learning about, financial issues? What are you learning about, real estate? What are you learning about, the mind? We just did a podcast and we talked about the dark triad. So that was narcissist, Machiavellianist, and sociopath.
Right.
Like read about the human mind. What are you learning about people? How can you apply that? So as a man, you need to know how to be well read.
And that's what I was showing you here just a little bit ago, right? Like I have the YouVersion Bible app on my phone.
Yeah.
I open it up every single day. Right now I'm on 229 straight days. I've had 242 complete weeks. My best record is 277 straight days. And that's, to me, I literally, when I wake up in the morning, I pick up my phone and I open that up, and that's the very first thing I do. I make that a conscious effort before my feet hit the floor. I want to see what God has to say to me that day. And it's it's reading the word, right? But it's something of discipline, and I'm pretty proud of that
And
one.
that helps your mind and soul, right?
Right.
That's huge. Yeah. So that's number 7. That's all I had.
Mm-hmm.
You good there?
Yep.
So number 8 is, this is kind of a unique one, but I like this and I agree with it. I think that every man should have this, is emergency preparedness. If you've got a home, what is your plans to protect that home if something happened? That's one aspect of it. Another one is if something happens or pops off, goes down in your vicinity and you're out in public somewhere, are you equipped to handle that from an emergency standpoint? That's an open-ended question, because that could mean I have to.
There are a lot of situations you have to prepare for, right?
Well, do you know CPR? Is there an active shooter? Can you address that if there's an active shooter in your proximity? I mean, I'll tell you a quick story. We were running downtown, down here in the Denver metro. We stopped at a major supermarket one evening. It was only 7:30 at night. I said, man, it's super sketchy here. Just kind of the area. And Ruth was just going to run in and run a quick errand real fast and come back out. And so I parked the car facing the front of the entrance, long ways, in kind of a weird way, as temporary parking, just real fast. And so I sat there and I'm idling. She walks into the store, Mark. Right as she walked in, I turned and looked, and I see 3 police officers running toward the building, more police officers pulling up, one lady throwing on a bulletproof vest as she's running into the store. I couldn't get out of the car fast enough to get to my wife, right? What is your plan for emergency preparedness? I still don't know what happened, but they caught the guy on the inside. In this supermarket chain, they had some active shooters there like a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know what to think.
Yeah, I typically have a 9mm on me at all times that I'm very proficient with. I practice at least weekly with it. In my home, I have a, agree or disagree. I have a black rifle with 100 rounds in mags loaded up, green tips if necessary. 12 gauge. Like I have that. I have a first aid kit on my nightstand. I have a first aid kit in my truck. Mm-hmm. I'm well versed in CPR. Like those are the things we need to know.
You need to know how to handle your business, man. And that goes into knowing how to fight, but also what about the fallout after something that's a violent event? Do you have the skill set to help people in that regard? You need to be able to do that. And I just advocate as a man that you do that. My wife, I mean, she's got a very robust medical background. And so she's really good with that stuff. And so we make a good team, and I make them bleed, and she makes them stop.
She patches them up.
Yeah.
Would you stop?
But all of that, and so emergency preparedness, disaster preparedness, like if you have a flood or a tornado or a massive snowstorm. We live here in Colorado, right? So mm-hmm. for us, that's what that looks like. We recently had a tornado here. Are you prepared? So as a man, do you have the gear you need for that and the skill set you need for that?
Right.
Okay.
All right. How to be useful, mechanically minded. Okay. We were kind of tapping on this earlier. It was under one of the other subcategories, but yeah, being mechanically minded. Like my ex-wife, she was blown away that I could, change wheel bearings off a car, or change axles, change suspension components, we got stranded. It took me 15 minutes to change the thermostat housing off the engine. Guys, this is basic knowledge of fixing things, right?
Yeah, I'll give you a simple example. If you've got Christmas lights for your home and a bulb is out, or half the strand isn't working, or a wire gets cut, do you have splice wires? Can you fix a string of Christmas lights? I was doing that when I was 7 and 8 years old. My dad used to watch me. I put the Christmas lights up on the house at that age, and I'd climb up on the ladder. I had a metal staple gun one time. He watched me staple through the wire while the lights were on and electrocute myself at 9 years old. And I paid my dumb tax in that regard early on, and he laughed through the front window of our house and just thought that was hilarious. But I've been working on stuff like that since I was little, man. And can you turn a wrench? Can you fix a car? Can you change a tire? Can you fix wires? Can you swap out an outlet on your house? Can you swap out a lighting fixture or a ceiling fan? Can you work on a lawnmower? Can you change a fuel filter? Can you
Can you sharpen a knife?
Can you sharpen a knife? You know,
An axe? Like,
yeah.
Can you? What? Do you know how to
Do
things?
you know how to chop wood? I mean, in Colorado, do you know how to chop wood? In Texas, can you run a chainsaw? Like, I mean, that's here too. I guess I don't know why I said that, but
I have a scar on my shin from when I was 12 running a chainsaw.
Oh,
it went through my Carhartts and my jeans.
That's messed up.
Yeah, I have a nick out of my shin bone. It's awesome.
Yeah, so being mechanically minded and having a baseline knowledge of fixing or improving things is huge. Having an appreciation for nature, like, you know, we talked about chopping wood and stuff. Like when you're out, you know, how to be useful. That's the topic we're on right now. When you're outdoors, do you have a baseline knowledge of camping or being out and about? Just being able to function outside of an air-conditioned house, you know.
And you know what? You can appreciate Bambi all you want when you're outdoors too. But I also bring the task, you know, I had a meat cutting class when I was in high school.
Can you hunt? Can you clean a deer?
I can take that deer from hoof to table in about 2 hours.
When I was in high school, so my brother had the same ag teacher that I had, and my ag teacher knew me when I walked in. He knew the last name Smith, right? Hey, Mr. Smith, sit right here. When I came in, and he would make all the other kids do packets for their grade in the class, and I would go out in the shop. I would fix the trailers. I would build the chicken coops, or if he went hunting, he'd bring his deer in from his morning hunt, and I'd clean the deer for him, and that's how I got my A in the class, right? Can you clean a deer? Can you go hunting? Can you go get meat for your family? Can you tie a hook for to go fishing? Like,
Yeah.
My dad. I'll give kudos to my dad. He's put this in perspective. Okay, my dad lost half of his hand from here up, right? And as an economic boom, he decided to be a mechanic. Didn't make an excuse. He went and worked. He didn't do the disability thing and just sit on his butt. He was drafted during Vietnam. He was a veteran, and then he came back and worked on Fort Hood base, and he rebuilt pieces of equipment on the tanks and the Humvees and stuff like that. And can you imagine being a one-handed mechanic?
I saw this TikTok video the other night. There's this page, the one-arm farmer. He was literally changing a tire on a combine.
Yeah.
One arm.
No excuse. But the utility of that being useful. My dad is named Larry, last name Smith, carpooled with a guy named Richard in an old 83 Chevy in a small town in Texas to Fort Hood military base every day. He wore a white t-shirt, blue jeans, steel-toe boots, had a camouflage ball cap, and a black lunch pail. And he went to work, and he was a mechanic and worked on Humvees and helicopters and tanks and all of that.
That's
and
awesome.
He took care of our family, turning wrenches as a one-handed mechanic, and he had a hook and with a backstrap thing. And that hook, if you made him mad, he could catch you right there with that finger, and no nonsense. But he knew how to work on things, and I grew up with a dad that taught me how to work on things. And if you're a guy that doesn't have a dad that taught you that, like, go learn. There's YouTube videos, man. You can go fix your washer and dryer. Like if your washer goes out, go look, troubleshoot it on YouTube or something. Like there's a way to do that, and you can be a useful human being. So as a man, learn how to be useful. That's all I'm saying.
YouTube videos, I've rebuilt 2 automatic transmissions from YouTube videos.
Right.
I have.
There's a lot of good information out there, and there's no excuse, right?
Right.
Moving on to the next one is continued learning. So what is your plan for curiosity? What is your plan for continued growth? And we talked about being well-read earlier. Well-read, one thing we didn't hit on, I want to go back to is, the Stoics of, the Greeks, read some of that stuff. There's good wisdom there in that regard. But then the continuous knowledge or learning thing, that's this last one here. And I think that more applies to, like, what do you want to learn about finance or investing? What types of ETFs and things, like if you wanted to go get into the stock market, what is your plan for continued learning? Do you have knowledge goals for what that would look like?
And surround yourself with people that are smarter than you.
That's a good way to do it. But to get around those people, sometimes they don't want to. Wisdom is often silent in the presence of foolishness. And if you're foolish, you're not going to find a lot of wise people around you, possibly.
Right.
Potentially you're foolish because you don't have wise people around you to begin with. But, being able to, carry yourself in a way that, you have those people around you, that would be good.
Yep. Another Patrickism. Wisdom is silent in the presence of foolishness.
Yeah, well, that's...
You always have quotes. I love it.
I mean, that's something I live by. It's one of my codes, man.
Right.
If you ever see me lock up and get quiet around somebody, chances are you know what I'm thinking.
Yeah. You're being dumb.
Yeah, I'm just quiet. I don't want to participate in the conversation.
Yep.
You know, and there are times when there's stupidness going on that I will get flagrantly verbal. I will speak up on something, right? And I've had to do that, and I will do that. I have a strong sense of justice, but I also know when to shut up.
Yeah.
So
Proverbs talks about the wise man. A lot of it.
Yeah, that's important. And you know, the continuous learning piece, having the wisdom, having wisdom will put you amongst people that you wouldn't have otherwise found yourself around. So that's why, as a man, knowing how to put together a plan for continuous learning will benefit you, because where do you want to be on that day? You know, begin with the end in mind, and you look back and you say, okay, well, maybe you're 19 years old and you're like, man, when I'm 30 or when I'm 40, I want to be here. When I'm 60 here, when I'm 80 here. So then you have to decide, okay, well, what do I need to learn? What in me needs to change to be there? And so that's what this is about today, basically. That's why we're tying it up with that last one, which is continuous learning. But that's all I had today. Guys, I know this was kind of a fast one.
It's a short one. Well, Patrick, you enjoy your vacation.
I will, man.
Treat your family. You guys have fun. I can't wait to see your sunburn. White boy problems.
I fry like a crispy critter. My daughter, we call her all white and pale and pasty like. We mess with her. She's a little short, pale pasty girl, and she's looking at me over there right now. We joke with her, and she's like, "I don't tan. I just burn and peel, and then I'm whiter than I was before." So
we call her toothpaste.
We are going to the beach, and so. That's all I have for today. And I guess if you like what you saw, hit the like button, follow us on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, all the places. And that's all I have for today.
And
so
thank you for your support, guys. We appreciate you.
Yeah. Pat Smith out.
Mark out.